welcome to It's a Fandom Thing and our continuing Comedy Month celebration. And I'm very excited because we are going to be talking about It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. And I've got a great panel, as everyone can see, on with me. So this should be a blast. This was not new to me. A lot of the shows we covered this month were brand new to me. This one and Married with Children were the only two that I had watched before. And what's so funny about that is I don't think you would have It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia if Married with Children had not existed. So I think that was really the predecessor for a lot of these type of shows. So this will be fun, and I love it because I have two amazing other podcast hosts on as well, Lauren and Rachel from the Sort of Brilliant podcast. So I'm really happy to have them on. And then, of course, the amazing Judy. So I'm really glad to have her joining as well. I love your nail polish. I just saw it.
I was at a 1940s ball last night, so I had to get all gussied up in my
awesome.
40s look.
Cool. Yeah, because Judy does a lot of ballroom dancing too, so it was probably doing that, right?
It was,
Yeah.
yes.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to go around and have my beautiful panelists introduce themselves and tell me one thing they're into right now in pop culture. And then for viewers, if you want to grab a bingo card in the comments there for a chance to win some It's a Fandom Thing merch, go ahead and pick one of those up. I'm keeping track on my thing. Hopefully I won't lose track. But if I do, hopefully you'll be keeping track as well. So, Judy, what are you into right now in pop culture?
Yeah, so this week I am recovering from the emotional damage caused by Rebecca's death on This Is Us last week. I mean, that's not really a spoiler, right? Everybody knew it was coming. And I'm mentally preparing myself for the finale next week. I love this melodrama. Talk about the absolute polar opposite of It's Always Sunny, right?
Yes.
But it makes me cry, good cry, bad cry. I don't know. Yeah, I love the way they handled her death episode. It was really unique, and I wish somebody would throw some Emmys Mandy Moore's way because she was just masterful at playing this character in multiple times of her life and through Alzheimer's and everything. So yeah, she's done an amazing job. The whole show. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
You know, we did a podcast about it already. So
yes. And it was just
You know
Judy and I. Yes, it was just Judy and I on that one. And hi, Aaron. And Judy, I was almost messaged you, but I wasn't sure if you'd watched it yet, so I didn't message you. I predicted what was going to happen. I said that's what I wanted to happen, where it would be where she sees Jack. So,
yes,
spoilers there. I remember, and I remember you were like, "Oh, I don't know. Well, that will happen." But I'm like, "Yes, that will happen. I want her to be reunited with Jack." So
it was really beautiful, and I mean, yeah, I don't know if it was an actual reunion or just the way, you know, Alzheimer's, you kind of regress. You know, you lose your short-term memories and the long-term, but it was beautifully done, I think.
Yes, I choose to believe it was a reunion.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I agree. You know, Judy, I have such a weird relationship with this show.
Yeah.
But I agree. And I cry at every episode of the show, even though I have issues with the show itself. But yeah. Awesome. Well, Lauren, one of the hosts of Sort of Brilliant, what are you into right now?
I've been emotionally battered by Jensen Ackles this weekend in like multiple ways. So that's what I haven't really watched any new TV in a while because the podcast makes us rewatch things. The newest thing I just watched was actually season 6 of Working Moms on Netflix, which was great. And I love that show. And I finished it in like a day. It's a really easy show to watch, like season by season. But no, Jensen Ackles is like wearing Gucci suits and announcing his TV show, The Winchesters, which means that I'm going to have to find cable somewhere again, because when Supernatural ended, I was like, done paying for cable. But the CW will not stream live. They stream the day after, and I simply cannot watch that show the day after with the fandom that I'm involved in. I am going to go watch Big Sky, I guess, because now he's going to be a regular in season 3. So going to go see what that's about.
It's now on my list too, which I've never even heard of it before.
Ridiculous. The Boys is about to come out, so I need to watch that as much as I've been putting it off because I'm not a gore person, but I got to watch it. So yeah, he's just been coming at me at every angle this week. That's been my pop culture.
That's hilarious. Yes, and I'm wearing a Supernatural shirt.
Oh
yeah. So it's keep calm and carry on, my wayward son. So yes, Aaron, the commercials on CW app are worse than waiting a day to watch. So Aaron, Aaron has watched Big Sky. See, I'd never heard of this either. I'd never heard of the show at all before that was announced. So.
I haven't watched something on ABC since Once Upon a Time, so I don't know.
Well, ABC does stand for always be canceling. So as Tiff has said, so. Yeah, sadly, kind of like Fox. They're notorious for that. Yep. So Rachel, Lauren's co-host, what are you into right now?
Well, I'm rewatching for our podcast. I'm rewatching Gossip Girl right now. And now that I know Erin hasn't seen it, I'm not going to say who Gossip Girl is in case she decides to watch it. But the other great love of my life is not truly pop culture, but I love true crime, everything, documentaries, podcasts, everything. So I will say that whoever Gossip Girl is, just now rewatching and knowing that person is a serial killer, and you're not going to convince me otherwise. The person it ends up being would not shock me if they were just revealed as a murderer as well, because it's that it's that bad.
I keep trying to tell Rachel too that this is just because the writers hadn't figured out who was Gossip Girl until like they were like the show has to end, so they were like Gossip Girl. But in retrospect, knowing who it is and watching the show again, you're like, what?
This person is a sociopath. Crazy. They have to be for this to work. So it's just been an interesting delve back in, knowing now, because I've only ever seen it once before. I had my guesses who it was going to be at the end, not at all who I thought, and now I'm just like, oh, you're a murderer, probably. You definitely are. You got some bodies in the basement. Okay, all right. So that's where I am in pop culture at the moment. Circa 2010, weird time.
I'm pretty sure I know who it is by hearing, and especially because we covered, and I believe, if I'm correct, we covered another show the person stars in that's currently still on. Okay.
Just maybe, Erin. I just don't want to say it and then ruin it for you, because if you watch it, then when you get there, you just have to like send me a selfie of the look on your face when it's revealed.
Okay.
To share in the horror, because it Gossip Girl becomes a horror show once you know who that is. It's horror,
but it's everybody gets the reveal and they're like, okay.
I thought Gossip Girl was like a comedy or something. I don't know.
Oh no, it's like a teen melodrama.
It's a teen melodrama. Yeah.
But the reveal
is not funny. The things that happen to them are not funny.
No.
Okay.
I mean, I guess they are if you're like, this is ridiculous.
It is ridiculous, but yeah, it's quite a ending.
Okay, well,
yeah. It's been on my head a lot, Erin. I'm sorry. I'm like binging it right now, and I just can't believe it. So
that's hilarious. Well, someday I will have to.
I look forward to it. We'll have a conversation.
It probably won't be this year because
it's all right.
Because like
I want to be on that episode when it happens. We talk about Gossip Girl.
Okay, well, I will write down that both of you will be on that.
Yeah, I got to talk about it. I got to talk about it.
I watched it earlier than Rachel. I watched it back in April. And you can hear like 3 of our podcast episodes is me referencing Gossip Girl every time. I'm pretty sure I talked about it on our live in that last weekend of March or whatever. I'm pretty sure because I was about to start watching it. Yeah. It consumes your wife while you're watching it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in it.
Hilarious.
It's bad. I've like downloaded the HBO app on my phone. I'm like ready to watch it on breaks at work. Like I can't stop now. The Upper East Siders they really sucked me in.
Well, I am gonna say I did this also on our Married with Children episode, so I don't probably will not I will not repeat this next live, I promise. But as a way to promote our Patreon account, what I'm into is pretty much about like an hour and a half before this. I recorded for 3.5 hours our next bonus Patreon episode discussing American Horror Story seasons 3 and 4. And Aaron was on there. And so I may lose my voice. Warning, I have a big thing of tea, but so I've already been talking for like 3.5 hours before this. I did take an hour and a half break, but still. But that was so much fun. And my panelists, we were pretty split over which season we loved some more than the other one. And of course, this kicks off us talking about our Vice unofficial mascot, Mr. Finn Whitrock. It's his first appearance in the American Horror Story universe in season 4, playing the amazing, horrible, awful Dandy Tantrum Mott. So that was a ton of fun. It was so much fun. I really, really loved those. Yeah, we cannot stop talking about American Horror Story. Really, it's Ryan Murphy that we cannot stop talking about on this podcast. But we're not talking about that today. We are talking about It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. So, like I have been doing with all of these, I'm going to start off just giving you some little like trivia, little fun little facts. First, if you don't know what It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, I'm going to read once again the IMDb descriptions, which have been so ridiculous for all the shows we've been covering because they're so simple, like this one. 5 friends with big egos and small brains are the proprietors of an Irish pub in Philadelphia. I guess that's sort of, I mean, I don't know. It's still very simplistic. It really could
Yeah.
describe a lot of shows. So, yeah. But just a couple of little quick trivia notes here. This was almost canceled after its first season, but it was renewed at the last minute when FX executives decided to give it room to grow. It has gone from the brink of cancellation to being one of the highest rated and most popular shows on FX, and with its 15th season has become the longest running live action sitcom in television history. However, The Adventures of Ozzie and Harriet, which ran 14 seasons, still holds the record for most episodes at 435. In order for Sunny to surpass the earlier show, and if only 10 are made a season as been the practice for the last several years, it would therefore have to run through 2048 to become
Wow.
an
Good.
actual.
I'd watch it.
I think it should.
Same.
You think it should? You think it
It
should
should.
try
Yeah.
to run that long?
I'm in.
In response to the theories of Dennis being a serial killer, Glenn Howerton has confirmed Dennis is a sociopath, but he likes to leave if he's a serial killer ambiguous. So, does everyone think he's a serial killer?
Yeah.
Yes,
Absolutely.
everyone's kind of nodding
Oh
their
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
he definitely killed Maureen Ponderosa.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Aaron, let us know if you think he's a serial killer. I agree. So, and the cast includes Charlie Day playing Charlie Kelly, Glenn Howerton, Dennis Reynolds, Rob McKenna. I cannot pronounce any names lately. McKenna playing Mac, Caitlin Olsen playing Dee Reynolds, Sweet Dee Reynolds, Danny DeVito, Frank Reynolds, Mary Elizabeth Ellis is the waitress. There's a bunch of other people in this as well, but I just wanted to list those ones. So what I want to start off with, and feel free to let me know in the comments yours as well, what 3 of your favorite episodes or moments are. We are going to be singling out a specific episode to talk about later because I thought it was important to do that for this one. So Judy, what are 3 of your favorites?
Aaron, I think this is the hardest pick 3 I've
I knew it
ever
would be.
had to do.
I knew
My
it would be.
list, my list is got to be 20 episodes long. So I'm like, I'll just make a big list and see what other people pick as well. But since I'm going first, I get to pick The Nightman Cometh. Charlie Work and Sweet D Has a Heart Attack. So those are my top 3. But yeah, I just wanted to talk a little bit about how much like I just love the show overall. this in our house, this show is one of those, like, we just watch it over and over, and all of us watch it together. My sons, who are adults, like, I don't like let my 5-year-olds watch it or anything. Um, but yeah, like my adult sons and I, we all watch it together over and over again. We constantly quote it together. So, we're just recently, my one son was putting together a budget for himself because he's getting ready to move out. And I had to tease him about being new poor. If we talk about weight, somebody's getting a little heavier, we're cultivating mass, and just so on and so on. Like, we are just constantly quoting it and having so much fun with it. Yeah, I don't know. I just love this terrible, wonderful show.
Awesome. Yeah, Nightman Cometh is, I think, one of the best episodes ever on any television show, period. So, yeah.
Ah.
Yeah, I have watched that episode probably more than any other episode on the show. So, yeah, it's a great one. And Lauren, I'm sure this was very hard for you too.
It was extremely hard, but Judy took one of my episodes, so I guess that clears it up a little bit. Charlie Works, one of my favorite episodes, because I love Charlie Kelly. But my favorite episode ever is Hero or Hate Crime. Like, I can't watch that episode without dying. And it feeds in a little bit to, I know we're going to talk about Mac later, but like the whole arc that Mac has, and that's a really good episode for that. I remember seeing that live and being like, oh my God, they did it. And then, he took it back, but they did it. So it was just really great to see that live. The other favorite is Reynolds versus Reynolds, the serial defense. Any episode where they're like, we're gonna solve it ourselves, and then they like do it. Like, they all, like, it's so funny because they're just talking episodes, and I think they're the funniest ones. But yeah, the whole
arbitration process.
Yeah, for Hero versus Hate Crime. Yeah, but then like they hold like a court. Like a court is in session for Reynolds versus Reynolds in the bar. And I always love when they're doing the shit in the bar and there are like these drunk Philadelphians in the background, just like in the bar drinking while they're doing this shit. And then I guess my other favorite thing is a moment, and it's a fairly recent one. So I guess that's surprising. It's from the latest season. My favorite thing to ever happen in this show is Charlie gaslighting Mac into thinking he's not Irish. It's the And this is the first season that Rachel and I saw after officially sorting all 4 of them. So I was able to watch this season with like our analysis in mind and what we had spoken about, even though I've known what houses they are forever. Like, we had talked about it, and just watching that play out, I was like, oh my God, this is, and we say too, like the 4, because they're all 4 houses. So they are like the most extreme satire and parody of all 4 houses that they are. So seeing that moment happen between Mac, who's a Hufflepuff, and Charlie, who is a Ravenclaw, and what Charlie was doing it was really funny. Really funny. It was great. It's like, why would you do that? Yeah, I don't know. You were just being annoying. Like, I just didn't want you to talk anymore. Like, shut the fuck up about your tattoo, about your Shamrock tattoo.
Oh, it's gonna be a whole thing.
Yeah, that was the funniest thing too. When he's on the phone with Frank, and Frank's like, "What the fuck is wrong with Mac?" He's like, Mac knows he's not Irish now." And he's like, "Oh, great, that's gonna be a whole thing." And they take him to a McDonald's. It's the McDonald house.
Yes, Ronald McDonald. Laugh at Ronald McDonald. You're literally named after a clown.
It's like, yeah, I did that.
The most quotable show.
Yeah,
it is cool. Yeah. So Rachel, I'm sure this was like nearly impossible since this is your all-time favorite show.
it was so bad. This was a horrible question that you've asked me. So I've got The Gang Gets Held Hostage, which is an early seasons episode because it's got the McPoyles on it, and the McPoyles are my favorite recurring characters. I think they are the funniest, most disgusting, horrible human being. I love every episode that they're on. But just them asking for milk in the bar it just kills me. Every one of their lines, I can't. They're so good. I wish they were on more. And then what else did I have? I had Charlie McDennis Game of Games, because one of my all-time favorite lines is just the way Glenn Howerton gets red in the face, and it's because Dennis is a bastard man, because Charlie can't remember or read. That one's amazing, and they're just like, they cage Frank and tell him he's a dog and throw beer at him, and it's wonderful. But my all-time favorite episode, I think, is The Gang Gets Analyzed, where they all go to a therapist, and it's just one after the other of just every single one of them. I don't even know how to explain. It's so perfect, that episode. It just Charlie with the pigeon and Dee screaming, "Tell me I'm good, just tell me I'm good." And Mac, through God, all things are possible. So jot that down. Like, too good. And they break the therapist because of course they do. They can't bring anyone normal in. It's a mistake. But I mean,
that whole Mac bit where he's like, "Oh yeah, I see you have this pen here because you want me to think about a dick," and then he's like putting his mouth.
And he's putting in his mouth. Yeah. And there's like a minor breakthrough with Charlie. Like Charlie wants to talk about his issues so bad, and he's just like, "But that's not it. That's
he has a breakthrough. He has it wrong. Yeah. He's like, I should be who I want to be. I should get more skin, and I should feed you pigeon, and it's fine."
Also, Judy, the way you guys quote it at home all the time, every time me and my husband go to a restaurant, we are like, "Beak! I'm going to order the beak," because of the way Charlie screams beak.
Milk steak.
Yeah. Too good. It's too quotable.
Crow egg.
Yeah. Fight milk.
Fight milk. Ha!
It doesn't stop. Aaron, we could just literally go all night.
Yep. I actually jotted down, as I was jotting down my notes, I jotted down like favorite quotes, and I have like 50 of them.
Yeah, at minimum, right?
Jabroni
Sylvia
and implication, full on rapist. Like, just
the implication. I have that sticker on my laptop. If I ever get a
because
boat,
of the implication. Because of the implication.
Implication. I'm the trash man. Every Sunday night. Yes, we have to be like, nobody wants to see you eat trash.
Well, I definitely have some super fans on here. That's for
definitely.
Which
is good. Sorry, Lauren, what were you going to say there?
Oh, I was going to say Dennis isn't my favorite. He's Rachel's favorite, but I think he's the best one besides Charlie. Charlie's are just funny. Dennis is like crazy. He's a sociopath. So I just rewatched Charlie work, and freaking when Mac is complaining because he's like, "I'm the one who had the idea. Like, I think I should be acknowledged as the one with the idea." And he's like bitching about it. And Dennis is just sitting at the bar drinking, and he just goes, "Look at me when you're talking to me."
Like,
and Mac has the
crazy. Yes.
The scratch on his face.
All right.
Oh
my God. It's like, Dennis scratched me.
Wait, do any of you, when you're sick, just go, "Does this look like a person who's sick?" I could simply say, "Sickness, be gone," and just because every time.
Well, instead we
do the Golden God thing every day too.
We always refer back to the Dee has a heart attack episode where they're like, I'm what is it? My body's working at 100% efficiency or clearing all the toxins.
I can't. At the height of COVID, when we were just like getting hand sanitizer, it was just constantly like, "I just want to be pure. I just want to be pure."
Oh, this is fun. Just quoting.
I know. I'm like just
all night
watching because I love this show, but definitely not to the level that the three of you do. But that's awesome.
On.
And I used to, though, when this show first came out. I remember when this show first came out, I was like, I cannot believe this show is on television. Some of the stuff they would do. I mean, like the episode, which actually is one of my favorites. Most of mine are from early seasons. But Charlie gets molested because it's so awful and wrong, but it's so hilarious. And it's just like,
do you think it's weird that I'm a person who survived an abortion? Do you think it's weird?
Just everything about that. Yeah,
Did you fuck my mom, Santa Claus?
Every little thing with the creepy uncle where he's just standing there staring at Charlie, and you're like,
bigger and bigger.
I shouldn't be laughing at this, but I can't. Like, it's done in such a specific way that only they can do right. Yeah. That I'm like, all right.
Yeah,
That is
and
great.
Mac being so upset that nothing happened to him,
Yeah.
and dressing in those
can't.
really short
I
shorts
can't.
and going to the teacher's house and trying to get him to
I
hit on him.
cannot with Mac. I can't.
Oh my
The
God.
what is it when Charlie captures the leprechaun, whatever that episode is, when they're like,
That's
Mac,
a
go to the
favorite.
other bar, and you know, and finds, and he comes back with that mesh
Glitter.
shirt on and the glitter,
Yeah.
and they're like, what were you doing? And then he's like nothing. I wasn't doing it.
I forget the name of the bar, but it was something.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
very, it was extremely like, we know what you were doing, Mac. Erin, did I ever tell you
Yeah.
I met them? I saw them filming.
Oh, really?
cool.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think you did say that before.
Yeah,
but
I lived in Philadelphia one summer because I was interning at a museum there, and they were filming the episode. I think it's a finale of one season. It's the episode when they all wake up and they're black. So actually, what I saw them filming was Charlie getting shot in the street, and everybody was like, "What the fuck?" You know, like, what's happening? But yeah, they were really nice. Charlie was extremely nice, but that was cool.
Yeah. It doesn't surprise me that they're nice, honestly. I think in order to play such despicable people, you kind of have to be nice in some way. I don't know why. That's one of my theories. When you play really despicable characters,
Hmm.
you are nice in real life. But yeah, I love that one. I love when Charlie and Mac die. I love that episode, that two-parter, because one of my favorite scenes in that is when Mac, because they've gotten in the car accident, or not in the car accident, because they're trying to fake their death. And he knocks his head so bad and he's got a concussion, and they go to the pawn shop and he's so
Yes.
upset about the wedding dress, and
Yes.
he gets the wedding dress and he's wearing them, and he's just talking about what are we going to do about the groom, and what are we, he's taking the poppers, and it's
Charlie's,
just
we're not going to do anything.
yes. And Charlie keeps pulling out his teeth, just pulling them out. It's so gross.
No, Charlie and Mac are my favorite duo on the show. Like they're
Oh.
screaming when they're I think they're filming something. It's the first time they wrecked his car when they're driving into that building.
Straight
He's
into
like,
the
"You gotta
lot.
jump out, just jump out." He doesn't jump out. He's like, "Why did you jump out? Why did you jump out?"
I don't recall them ever wrecking Dee's car. Sounds like something a dumb bird would say.
It doesn't. It sounds like something Dee makes up a lot
Yeah.
just to get people to pay for her cars.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think Charlie and Mac are my favorites to watch together. And they have great scenes and great chemistry. This whole cast works really, really well. You can tell they're friends in real life because they work
Mhm.
really, really well together.
Yeah.
And I love in the gang solves the gas crisis. And I just love Charlie in that episode just because he's wild. He's a wild card.
Wild card.
Is that?
And when they're stealing all the gas and filling up the gas tanks, and they're selling it in the gas barrels, like right outside of
Yeah.
the gas station,
Yeah.
and they're blowing doing the fire bomb thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my god!
Is that the episode where they're having the conversation in the parking lot where they're like siphoning gas and Charlie just doesn't understand what's going on, and they're like, he just doesn't get what we're talking about, and Charlie's like, yeah, that dude doesn't even get us, man. Like he doesn't even know. He's like, and Mac's
They're like, "We're talking about you."
He's like,
Yes.
yeah, that guy just like doesn't know what he's talking about.
Yes,
Great
yes,
moment.
yeah,
Yeah, that was it.
fun.
Yeah. No, yeah, it was the one when they break into that lady's house and Mac's outside in the van eating the fucking chips. And Charlie's like, "Why can't I have a chip? Why can't I have a chip?"
These are not your chips.
It's so and I used to have Dayman. I used to have that song as my ringtone when that was first out, and I remember when my phone would go off if I was in a public space and nobody knew what the world was. They would look at me like I was psychotic or something. They're like, "What in the world is that song playing?"
You were going for gasps, not for that.
Yes, and I got them. Yes. Awesome. Well, I want to know your general thoughts on the gang, and we are going to talk about Frank in a second. So, other than Frank, so Mac, Dee, Charlie, and Dennis. So, what are your overall thoughts on the gang, and do you have a favorite, Judy?
Another tough one, but my favorite is Charlie. So, well, first of all, overall thoughts on the gang. Gosh, their chemistry and it's like a puzzle. Like they just fit so well. I just love the dynamic of each person has, I don't know, just something about the way it all goes together. And I love just the absolute rapid fire chaotic tone of the whole show. The way they yell over each other and the funny lines just come at you so fast. You have to rewatch it, and you catch more every time you rewatch it. Yeah, I just love their whole dynamic and the way they change up the pairings. So, you were talking about like Charlie and Mac sometimes together, and other times you'll have Mac and Dennis or D and Mac or whatever. I love every combination that they put together works. It's always funny. Um, but yeah, Charlie's my favorite. I love how just absolutely ridiculous he is, between playing in the sewers or bashing rats or collecting crow eggs and eating cat food, milk
His
steak,
animated
magnets,
thoughts.
bulls. Like, the fact that he can't read and just everything about him, just every time he throws out some bizarre thing that he does just makes me laugh harder and harder about this guy. He's just so off the wall. So, yeah, Charlie's absolutely my favorite. And I think he's the least terrible of them. Just because
Yeah.
he is kind of so dumb. He's just kind of going along with it all, but he's not intentionally evil like the rest of them. Um, Dennis is so creepy. So creepy. Um, but yeah, it's so interesting. Like, I don't know if you guys listen to the It's Always Sunny podcast, but I love how you get
Yeah.
little like you could see each of them in their characters a little bit. Like Glenn, you could tell he's not a sociopath.
It's a lot, Judy. They're a lot like them. It like the way they
But
talk
he's
is
definitely high
wild.
strung. Like,
Yeah.
right? It's so
Yeah.
funny. You're only listening to it and you're like, well, I can see
You
where
ever
they get
he
that from
tries to
Dennis.
be normal sometimes on the podcast, and they're like, "But Glenn, you like have a problem with unfiltered water." And he's like, "Well, unfiltered water is for maniacs.
Yeah.
It's for crazy." And you're like,
Right.
"There he is."
He has bizarre food
Yeah.
issues and
Yeah.
weight issues, and yeah, he's high maintenance. So yeah, Dennis is a great character, and I love the way he kind of uh, the role that he plays within the gang is fascinating because he thinks he's the most sane the normal guy, where he's actually almost the worst of them all. And that whole like, is he a killer, and he uh, is he or isn't he an actual monster? It's an interesting question. I do think he's my least favorite, but the I like them all so much it's like just barely. um D and Mac, again, I like them all. I love the absolute dedication of the actors that play both D and Mac. Like D or Caitlin is willing to do anything. She will go ugly, which a lot of actresses don't want to do. She will go over the top, physical comedy, you name it. So yeah, I give Caitlin all the props. And same with Mac. I mean, you know, packing on all that mass. You should be cultivating all that mass, even though you should have been harvesting. But yeah, like that, or learning that dance or whatever. They just like so much dedication to their characters. But yeah, D and Mac, I think the interesting thing about both of them is, I mean, it's there's not very deep characters, but honestly, it's kind of interesting to look at them and realize that the driving force with both of them is just trying to be accepted, and they both go to all kinds of crazy lengths to be accepted. Like D, tries to be louder and funnier and more obnoxious and all this to be accepted by these guys who will never accept her. Um, and Mac, who just had the worst parents in the world, um, is constantly trying to be accepted, to play it like he's straight for all this time, or get Dennis's acceptance, which again he will never have. So it's interesting to watch that they actually give those two characters a little bit of a driving, like what's behind them. So yeah, it's hard to pick a favorite because I love them all. Charlie's a little bit of a favorite. But I also just want to give a little bit of a nod to the side characters. This show is amazing, with side characters and continuity. Like it does continuity better than a lot of other shows. Supernatural. Yeah, you have like throwaway lines from seasons 1 and 2 that they'll remember, or characters from those early seasons, and great side characters like Rickety Cricket, who every time David Hornsby, who's like one of the writers on the show, but every time he comes on screen as Rickety Cricket, I know he's going to be absolutely hilarious. And the characters' parents, like, well, the mothers. I mean, I don't really count Frank, but yeah, like the mothers are the best. The mom house or old lady house was like a favorite episode. Yeah, so just definitely a nod to all their side characters and the continuity where they bring side characters back 15 years later and still just have a ball with them.
Yeah, good call. Thank you for pointing that. That is true. Very true on that. Yeah. I like the little jab at Supernatural there. Sorry. It is for the continuity. Can't be a problem. Yeah. So, Lauren, your thoughts and your favorite?
My favorite is also Charlie, but Mac is a very, very close second. I say Charlie because the first time I watched Charlie was my favorite, like hands down. The more I watch, the more I love Mac. And I don't know if that's Rob's fault or if it's just like the more of Mac's like story that's revealed, the more I love him. But Charlie and Mac are definitely like my top 2 favorite characters. And I love Dennis and D2 for like what they are, but what Charlie and Mac, like I just think they're the funniest ones. I don't know what else to say. I because of how Rachel and I have like analyzed them in houses or whatever, we have like kind of a different view of Charlie where like he's dumb but also brilliant. Like you can see it in Charlie work, or like in the episode when they leave him and go to the Super Bowl and he's doing all like the superstition stuff while he's trapped in like the horror house of the bar or whatever. He's like literally like eating a rat and like drinking green paint because he's like, I have to get the Eagles to get a touchdown.
Or when it catches
like,
the leprechaun.
Yeah, he catches the leprechaun. Like he's actually like Charlie work just blows my mind every time when he's like, Mac, just stand by the vent and count to 30 and then say I'm sorry. And Mac's like, why? And he's just do it. And it works perfectly. And you can see like when he actually puts his mind to something and wants to do something, like he's really good at it. Like that same episode, moving the dumpster back, and Dee doesn't do it. It's 5.5 feet, and he's like, you bitch, you dumb bitch, like he's like, yo, you dumb bitch, oh, you dumb bitch. Like, but in the therapist episode too, he's like getting pissy about Charlie work, and she's like, what's Charlie work? And he's like, like bashing rats on the head and toilet stuff and sewer stuff. And she's like, and you don't like doing Charlie work? He's like, well, no, I love it, but don't tell me what to do. I don't want to be told what to do. Don't tell me what to fucking do. Like, that's Charlie, and that's like when he wants to, he can be like he gaslit Mac and not thinking he was Irish. Like if he gets annoyed enough or pushes far enough. And I love like I think Dee and Charlie are probably the pair that we see the least. Like I love what you said, Judy, that we do see them all paired up and you get to see, but like the dynamic of each of them, and it's going to feed into houses again, because the dynamic of each of them is so perfectly what the house dynamic would be from where we've sorted them. So like Dee we think is a Gryffindor, and then Charlie is a Ravenclaw, which is already a strange house dynamic. Like you don't see a lot of it in the original source material. But and then there's not a lot of them. Like the two most specific ones I think are when they're like, we're done with the gang because they're being mean to us, and they go to that restaurant, and Charlie's like, well, Frank always makes me order beak, and Dee's like, you don't have to order the beak if you don't want to. Like, don't order the beak. And the waitress comes and she's like, what would you like today? And he's like, beak. Or the episode when they're doing the online game where Charlie again like takes over the entire game and is like king of the whole thing, and Dee is staying with, and they have sex because Dee's like his minion or whatever. And it's so perfectly like I think what Judy said is right, is that Mac and Dee both want acceptance, but it's in different ways. Like Mac wants to be part of the group, I think, and Dee just wants validation. So she wants validation for the things that she's doing and the things that she wants to be good at, that I think deep down she knows she's not good at it, but tell me I'm good. Tell me I'm good. Like, tell me I'm good. That's all I need. I don't need to actually be good. Just tell me I'm good. Like that whole episode they did where they gaslit her into thinking that she was going to be a famous Hollywood star. And then they were like, you were bumming us out, Dee. So like, but here you go. But I don't know. I love all of them. And my favorite thing is how right we are about their houses. I'm just going to have to say that. Like, it's just me and Rachel quoting at each other and like talking about insane. It's, I think I've said this before. I don't know if it's been on an episode with Aaron, but Always Sunny reminds me of Community in that it is also very satirical, and like they take the characters to the brink of what their personality and their motivations are or whatever. But Always Sunny is like inappropriate about it, whereas Community was an NBC show and they like had that hard line where they were like, well, now we need to stop. But they're like hinting at it. Like Joel McHale, Jeff could be a sociopath. Like if you pushed it a little farther, he absolutely could be. But it's NBC, so we're just almost there. Yeah. But no, I love the fact that they just like took them there, and you just get to see this. Like, and I also love, I think this is gonna also talk about, I think there's a question later that this also feeds into, but they're bad people and they're never rewarded for it. Like they never get anything good. Like nothing good happens to them. But the thing is, they are so awful that they don't even realize that there could be good things for them. Like they're so awful. But anyway, yeah, Charlie's my favorite. We just learned that Charlie owns the bar. Like the bar was his idea. He totally owns it. And Dennis is just taking money from him, I guess.
Like, I love when he's like, maybe we should renegotiate. Oh, no.
Yep.
Oh, I have about
but I love
$10,000.
Like Charlie's the mastermind behind everything. I don't know. Like Dennis wants you to think it's him, but Charlie's the one who's here, like doing stuff. And like, yeah. And Charlie working out. We're like, we're not going to explain the plan to you. You won't get the plan. And Charlie's like, I know exactly what the plan is.
Yeah,
I think half the time when he's like stupid, he's been huffing paint that day. Like I don't like.
I think that's interesting, the Community thing, because we covered Community earlier this month, and it was a first time watch for me. And I think that's why, for me, I'm a lot harder on Community than I would be on, say, this or Married with Children, as far as like pushing that line and like some of the ickiness they do, because with Community, you're supposed to really like and root for these characters. So when there's bad stuff happening, it's kind of like, okay, or when they mishandle representation on that show and stuff. Whereas the same thing with Married with Children, they don't win. Al always loses, always. And I think that's essential, like with this one too. We're going to get that in a second. And before I go to you, Rachel, just a quick comment from Aaron. Has anyone else seen the show?
I watched the Mick. I love the Mick. It's stupid that it was canceled. It was very good. It was so good. It was basically Dee as a nanny. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, what Aaron said, it's the same character. You're right, Aaron.
Yeah.
It literally is. It's Dee.
Yeah.
Which is funny because on one episode of Sunny, they like gave her I don't remember. I think it was her dream or fantasy where she's being a nanny for a rich family, and you get to see, but she's pretending to be a butler, like a male butler. But then it was so funny that she got the Mick because that was her job, and just it's all connected. It was sweet, Dee.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
Oh my
so
God.
Rachel, your favorite then is Dennis, right?
Yeah, I really truly I don't watch the show to see good people. I watch the show because they're horrible and I enjoy seeing them be horrible and never win for it because my favorite part of what the cast does, first of all, they're phenomenal actors. Every single one of them in their own individual ways, the way they deliver lines, even if it's the shortest throwaway line, will have you on the floor just cry. They are so good at delivering. That being said, my favorite deliverance of them is when every single one of their characters goes to extreme like anger or crazy levels. So when Dennis really freaks out or Dee starts screaming like you light one bitch on fire and suddenly everyone's so mad, like, or Charlie when his voice gets really high, or Mac when he's I want to put my thumb through your eye. Like when they get to that level, it's the funniest thing I've ever seen, which might be why Charlie McDennis is one of my favorite episodes because they're so high strung the whole time because they're competing. So that being said, Dennis is constantly in a state of sociopathy and just anger, and he's always the quickest to get angry. And I love how Glenn plays him, and I think he's the most horrible. Huh?
Selling his car.
Selling his car. Yeah, I mean, this is not a starter car. This is a finisher car. Like you don't know what's going to tip him over. And so when the show said that Glenn wasn't going to be on because he was going to AP Bio, those are the only episodes that I don't love. I don't actively like. I could rewatch the entire
dentist
show,
doll.
but the dentist doll. You're right, Mac with the dentist doll, amazing. But like
Wow.
I missed him because Dennis likes to think he's the leader. He likes to think he's the smartest one. But like from season 1, you see him, he's a complete dumbass in the real world. He's not at all the leader. Like even with the video game where he's just like, this has gone on long enough. He just changed their passwords, like because all of their passwords were passwords. Or Patty's or something.
The Family
it was
Feud.
yeah. It's so
like you
funny.
He would have been good at Family Feud, and he was
I
terrible.
know because that's the thing, and this is the thing about
Charlie
Dennis.
was good at it though, because
Dennis-
Dragon Meat was an answer that Charlie gave on the street.
Yeah, but
Right,
Dennis makes
because,
you
know,
think.
kings eat dragon, not peasants.
Dennis really has a way, and I guess it's in Glenn's delivery of making you think that he is the most normal one, and that he's the one who could survive. And it's the way Dennis delivers things with the confidence of like, oh, clearly you're all stupid and beneath me. And so you're like, oh man, this guy out in the world, like he could be fine. But then you see him have an insane meltdown and you're like, oh, you're just like them. You're just like them. You're like exactly like them. So he couldn't be away from them and go make it in the world with his son. Or I don't even remember that storyline what they were attempting to do there. But I did not like it. And I'm very happy.
It was he had a kid. And he decided that he was going to go be a dad. Yeah, it was his son.
Terrible reasoning. Bring him back, and I'm glad that they did because I missed him very much. But yeah, he's my favorite because I like when they're terrible, and he's the most terrible always. So I just find him very funny because he's unapologetic about it. Whereas, like, you're right, Charlie's probably the most sympathetic one. Things happen to him. He's sort of a victim, and Mac's always been kind of a bully. I mean, for like when he was a kid, he likes to throw rocks at cats.
Charlie threw rocks at trains too.
Yeah, they did. I know. But again, like Charlie was a follower. He's a little follower. And Dee's been bullied her entire life, whereas Dennis is the one constantly doing the bullying. So I just think on a show where they're all horrible, horrible people, why wouldn't I like the most horrible one? That's what I'm watching for. They're hilarious. I just love Dennis. I can't help myself.
You reminded me when you were like the throwaway lines that you don't even expect to come or whatever. I just rewatched Rachel told me her 3-8 favorite, and then I rewatched my 3 favorite, and I don't remember which one it was, but it's in the opening, like before the title card. And Dennis to Charlie is like, "Don't do that, or I'm gonna rip you a new asshole." And like Mac comes in, and Charlie's like, "Hey Mac, can an asshole rip open?" And Mac's like, "Oh yeah, like tissue paper." And it's just like,
Yeah.
How do you know?
Yeah. Those are the best lines in the show. They really are. I mean, Judy, you're right. You have to rewatch it several times. I've seen the show a lot, and every time I rewatch it, I'm laughing like I'm seeing a new episode because there are things you don't remember because there's so many little throwaway lines. Community works that way too.
They talk over each other too.
Yeah.
So when they talk over each other, you may miss what one person said, but not the other.
Especially when Charlie is like high-pitched screaming. Like when I actually am like, okay, I'm listening to what Charlie's saying and not everybody else also like trying to yell. He's like,
I think Mac deserves so much love though, because He's such a fantastic. He's so funny. The things Rob has done for that character, the weight up and down, making it into a joke, then taking it seriously, and then his like journey through being a gay man and his repression, and like just the things he's done with Mac, even the less serious ones where he just takes himself very seriously as a bodyguard and he's giving you an ocular pat down. The way he plays Mac is unbelievable.
Mac's
Yeah.
identity is very important to him. Like he needs to know
Everything.
exactly. I am an Irish gay man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or a badass.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm a badass.
Put this comment up here.
Oh, milk.
Anyone who's watched American Horror Story, Aaron's saying, I'm starting to see connections between Dennis and Danny Mott.
You know what? When Dennis goes to his mother's grave, yeah, Aaron, I will give you that. He's like, mommy, not my mommy. I can see it. I see it. Who was responsible for that? Was that Frank that took them to their mom's grave and made Dennis see?
Probably.
Jesus Christ.
Yes, probably.
Dig
Oh, Frank.
Yeah, because wasn't that when Frank was finding out he wasn't their dad? It was
Well, they were trying.
The
I
other
thought
guy?
he was buried with.
Oh, that's right. She
Which
wasn't
is
actually
wealth or
dead.
something.
Yeah, she was.
Yeah.
She was buried with her jewels, and then she wasn't actually dead. And yeah,
Oh, they're horrible. I love them. They're horrible. It's so funny.
Yeah, I mean, they are all horrible. I think Charlie is the best because he is the least horrible, but I really love Mac, and I have this weird crush on Mac. It's this weird,
So cute.
unexplainable thing. I think he's the most attractive of all these men. He's really attractive, and it's really this very weird thing inside myself where I'm like, he's so horrible. but he's
no,
so-
Aaron, I agree with you. Like when
it's
Rob
also
starts letting
sad
Mac's hair
eyes.
not be
Yes.
slicked back when it's fluffy is when he's the
Yes.
most attractive.
Yes.
No, I agree with you.
Like sad puppy dog eyes.
So cute.
Yes, he does.
He really does. He
Also,
really does.
I will also add that I have a weird attraction. I have such a weird attraction to Charlie, and it's like, and I would call Charlie is the same type of like he and Jake Johnson belong in the
font.
same club. Yeah, like they're same person, different font. Like him and Jake Johnson. It's really
Yeah.
like if I watch New Girl, I'm kind of like we could probably just like slip Charlie
Yes.
Kelly in, and he would be fine.
No,
here.
You all feel weird about liking two very attractive and cute characters. Meanwhile, I'm over here thinking Dennis is the most attractive. So you know what? I'm the one who should be feeling the most shame, but I don't.
I mean, Charlie
I
rolls
love it.
around and
Crush
he
on
steps
Rickety
in
Cricket.
dog
I think
shit
we're good.
on purpose.
Rickety
And
Well,
None of you were going to say the McPoyles, right? No one's going to.
No.
All
Like I
right.
said,
Well,
as long
and
as no one
Aaron.
said Rickety Cricket, we're good.
unless
And
you get
Aaron
Stockholm
agrees, yeah.
syndrome, and then you can be into the McPoyles. Or you get bit by a zombie.
Could
Oh my
happen.
God.
And Charlie is really kind of I really always feel bad for Charlie because you're right, Rachel. He is sort of the victim.
He is a little
And
bit.
he's like treated like the worst by everybody. Well, D really is the one treated the worst, but of
That's
the
fair.
guys, of
That's
the
fair.
guys,
Yeah.
he's treated the worst and treated like he's
The
just
thing
a
about Charlie though
moron.
is he
Except
likes
by
it.
Frank.
Like he doesn't care. Like he doesn't care. Like he's like whatever. Like I
No, it
enjoy
hurts
my
D
life.
on some level. It doesn't.
Yeah.
Really, really.
Yeah,
No,
Charlie,
Charlie,
doesn't
yeah.
care because Charlie.
They
I
cannot break
think-
him.
No, well, I think even though he's quote unquote stupid, he's kind of elevated above the rest of the gang in a weird
Yes.
way. He's gone
Agreed.
beyond.
Yes,
caring
as a
about this kind of
Ravenclaw,
stuff.
Charlie could leave them and never return and never think about them again. He would be
Find
fine.
a way to leave the state.
Yeah, he just has to get over his phobia of leaving Philadelphia, and he'll be
Yeah.
fine.
He can survive on rats. He'll be okay. He likes crawling in the sewers already. I don't really see. And
Just go to Charlie's bad room. In Charlie's
Charlie
bad room where
always-
he's freaking.
Find
You
find
hear
holes
bad
in the
time,
alley.
you
I mean,
Oh, but yeah, he's just so above them all. And then Dennis, Dennis, this okay. What I appreciate about the Dennis character is this is a character that on any regular sitcom or show would be the nice guy, and the guy that would be the quintessential, like the one that every woman would want to be with and settle down with, and he would be in a bunch of love triangles.
Well, they took
And
that
I
and
love that
twisted
they
it really
flipped it.
well. Yeah,
and, well,
with
they
the-
actually show what
he's
the
a-
nice guy really is.
is
That's
an
what I like.
underage woman, and like the
He's-
whole episode dedicated to the Dennis system. like what he does to them.
So gross.
Yeah, well, I honestly think the nice guy trope character really, like we talked about in How I Met Your Mother, and with Ted, and Ted is
Ugh.
like one of the worst
Oh,
characters
yeah.
ever on television, and
See,
that's
when they
the
try to make
nice
him
guy.
good, Aaron, when they try to make them like a regular functioning
Exactly.
human in
That's
society,
what I
they're a
mean, yeah.
monster. That's why Dennis works, because they're
No,
not
that's
trying to
what I
make him normal.
appreciate.
I
Mhm.
agree with you 100%. I think
Yeah.
that's part of my thing.
Yes, because it's
Honest.
because I do agree he probably is a serial killer. He's like the serial killer that would be on trial and all the women would be like
He's
fawning
Ted
over
Bundy.
him.
Yeah,
Yes,
he's
he's Ted
yeah.
Bundy.
He what
Yes.
in the Hero or Hate Crime when he's explaining how he gives Dee money and she's supposed to leave. I don't remember her name, Cindy or something, a tip or whatever. And Dee's like, Sydney's underage, and then he does the whole thing where he's like, you have to make a deposit until they come of age. It's an investment, so you make a deposit, and they're like, deposit is come, right? Like that's what you're talking about here. And he's like, no, yes, it's what I'm talking about. That's what we're doing.
If you've ever seen the bloopers are some of the funniest things in the world because the lines are ridiculous. So the whole speech he's giving to Dee when she pisses him off about the skin, where he's like, you haven't even thought of the skin, you haven't even thought of the smell, you bitch. Like the way Glenn delivers it, Caitlin can't hold it. Caitlin, she can't. They did like
They did
50
that
takes.
in the when they're this latest season when they're in the office and Dennis has COVID and they're trying to rent
Yeah.
the castle and he's not allowed to talk because he keeps coughing. So she's
Yeah.
speaking for him.
I think the house is talking to him because he's a demon. He's a killer.
He definitely is. I think maybe the
It's not
show
even in the
will
castle
end.
anymore. It's like
The
castle
show will
told me.
end revealing a bunch of bodies that are buried
Yeah,
that he has killed. A bunch of people he's killed. Maybe he'll kill the rest of the gang, and that's the way
maybe.
the series
Maybe.
will
Charlie won't
end.
be killed by him though. Charlie's a survivor.
Charlie, yeah. Charlie will be in the vents.
Because see, he is in a weird way, even though he's the stupidest one, he's the smartest one.
Yeah,
based
he's
on
the
survival.
survivor.
His whole
He's
system
this.
is
He
survival,
survived an abortion, and
Yeah.
that led his entire life. Like that's what it is.
You're not
He's
killing
the
the
survivor. You will not. Yeah, you will not kill him.
He was the one that got to Thunder Gun Express.
That's
You know,
right.
he
Yeah.
left Dee in the sewers.
Yeah.
Well, and Dee, once a comedy is the hardest thing in the world to do. I don't care what anybody says, and all these people are amazing. And what I appreciate about Caitlin is female comedians and female comic performances are so underappreciated, and her performance is so amazing in this. She's so good. She's so good at physical comedy. She's so good at just
I'm
this
so
character-
happy that she'll get
she's
shrill.
gorgeous.
Yeah, she is. She's gorgeous. I'm so
She's
happy that
gorgeous.
she'll get
Yeah.
shrill and like yeah.
Yes, and it's so funny because you'll sit there, all the people are talking about her. There's the gang like she's ugly, and she is like,
She's
and a
not.
lot of people, and she's so
Yeah.
gorgeous.
Yeah.
But yet she's not afraid to get ugly, like you said, Judy. She's not afraid to do that. And one episode that I really liked was the high school reunion, just when they did the dance number when they're
The
doing
Aluminum
freedom.
Monster.
And they are imagining that everybody's like, yeah, this is amazing. And then when you
Yep.
cut to how they actually look,
Freedom.
and they're covered in sweat and they look
Mhm.
awful. And everybody's like, oh my gosh.
Screaming.
Mac with the shirt open with the belly
Yes.
was the picture I posted on Instagram of me while I was pregnant in the summer, and I was like, "This is how it feels, just with the shirt open, just." Oh, that was so funny! Oh my god!
But she's incredible. I think she gives one of the best comedic performances on television ever from a female. And I really think the show deserves more credit that way. Like more critical acclaim. I mean, I know a lot of people do love this show, and especially when it first came out, there was a lot of positive reception from some critics, but I think it deserves more attention for the performances too, because I think that gets lost. And I think people think this is just easy to be so over the top like this, but it's not. And comedy is dang hard, man. It's a lot harder than drama. So I just, I would love to see a lot of these actors in dramatic roles. I know some of them have done that, but just because I'm sure they would kick ass because they are so good at this. And if you're so good at that, I think it really lends itself to being good at dramatic work as well. So yeah. But But yeah, Charlie and Mac are kind of tied, with Charlie kind of evening out. But yeah, Mac is the most attractive of all the men on here for sure. So I'm glad I'm not alone in that. So now let's move on to Frank, played by the amazing Danny DeVito, who, well, we thought he was Charlie, sorry. We thought he was Dennis and Dee's dad, but even though he's not, he might as well be.
He might
And
be
he's-
Charlie's dad.
Yeah, and he's actually Charlie's like best friend, kind of. They have the weirdest relationship. So, what are your thoughts on Frank, Judy?
Oh my gosh. Like you said, the incomparable Danny DeVito is amazing in this role. And I love that he plays Frank with such gusto. Like he is just willing to not be afraid to just go over the top for this character. And a lot of actors will do that, but like Danny will take it to a whole new level. Like how many actors would burst out of a couch naked and sweaty and or get stuck in a children's playground in a diaper or just over and over again. He will just do whatever it takes for that comedy. Um and I love that again, he's another one where the actor a little bit bleeds through to, to the character. Again, when from the podcast, the guys have talked before about how they first met Danny, and when their first meeting with him, they go to this restaurant, and Danny is sort of half in character. He's not really talking to them as Danny. He's like kind of mumbling and talking about how he's got a box of teeth and watches and and these poor guys, they're like, is he auditioning? Is this real? And they literally through the whole dinner they didn't know. So, he's another one that just kind of lets his own quirky self bleed through to the character. And I love that they have the freedom, I guess, to do that. Yeah, I just Frank is just so incredibly over the top. I don't even know what else to say about him, but he makes me laugh all the time. I guess Dennis is probably the worst, but he's up there. He's up there. He's pretty terrible. But hilariously terrible. And I love that like he was this professional who we don't know what he did. He made money. He built wealth. And
Don't ask questions, Judy.
That's all that we know that he did, right? And then he just decided to give that all up to live in squalor and follow these four idiots around just because he thinks they're funny and he thinks that this whole weird life is funny. It's just such a bizarre character twist because we're used to most characters, they're striving for more. They're trying to get something and gain something. And he just wants to just live in squalor and to excess and decadence. Well, not decadence, but drugs and you know what I mean by decadence.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's a unique way to write a character, and yeah, I love what they've done with Frank. He absolutely is a fantastic addition to the show.
Yeah, Lauren.
I don't even know what to say about Frank.
I know, right?
Like, yeah, I don't know. He's Danny DeVito is hilarious. And like my my dad loves the movie Twins, but I've never seen it. My exposure to Danny DeVito is Hercules. So like but I think he's one of the funniest people ever. When I saw them filming, he was filming in Crocs and just wouldn't take them off. So I'm pretty sure that Frank is wearing Crocs in the episode because he was just like, I don't want to change my shoes. So he's wearing Crocs. And I feel like that's just the type of person he is. I agree with Judy. I love how he like throws himself wholeheartedly into it. I almost feel like Danny is like Frank in that way, where he was like approached for this show, and Danny DeVito could do whatever he wanted, and he's like, yeah, I'm 100% into doing this for 18 years. Like, let's go, or more than that, because they had some hiatuses. But and it's just his. I feel like none of, I guess, well, I would say Mac has had growth, and the growth doesn't necessarily mean better. They've just had growth in some areas. So I feel like Mac and Charlie have a growth, and I think even Dee has had growth. I think Dennis and Frank haven't really had any growth. Like they are just totally
Almost
fine with where they are. Yeah, almost regret. They're just
Yeah.
totally fine with where they are. Like Frank, it was so funny that he comes in as like this dad who hasn't spoken to his children in a while, and he's like, yeah, I want to hang out with you guys, like I want to be your friends, like I'll give you all the money you want for everything. And like he just ends up living with Charlie, and he also likes to eat cat food, and they play footsie in the bed together. Like if they're not cuddling, they can't go to sleep. And, like,
He has that
ass
blow
to
up
ass.
doll.
Yes,
Yes.
the blow up,
Oh,
yeah,
He takes
yeah,
his
and
dog to
or
the
like
bed
when they
just
have
because he thinks it's funny.
when they have the Eastern European woman and they want to take them back home, and they put them in the bed, and they're all in there together. and like, and the show acknowledges it. Like Dennis, as the normal one, is like, you have this really weird ass relationship with Frank, and like it's just accepted. Like they're all, that's the thing I can say about the gang too. Like they all accept one another for the absolutely horrible and awful people they are. Like there's no hypocrisy in that sense, where they're like, I am also an awful person, so like I really like you be awful in whatever way you want. Like in your hate crime, when they're like, Mac, just come out, like we're gonna hate you either way, like we don't like you whether you're gay or straight, so like just come out of the fucking closet. And he does, and they're like, yeah, I still hate him, like not because he's gay, just because he's Mac, like, you know. Like, it's like, but that's true for all of them. They're just like, whatever. So Frank is gonna be freaking weird, and he's gonna, you know, sleep with Charlie and get weirdly jealous when Charlie like marries the waitress or finds his real dad in Ireland, and then Frank almost tries to make him eat shit. So like, what? I don't know. He's really funny, and I think it's funny. Like, I think you need that character that is like not having any like there's nothing going on there. He just like he's
What's going on?
There's no
like
story for him.
nothing. He's got
No.
no story. He just has reams and reams of cash. Like in this latest, like I'm like, he has to run out of soon, right? And no, in this latest, he's like burning money with those documents that they have in Ireland, just like burning cash. And you're like, whatever.
Frank Fluids was, you know, very popular with Boko Haram, so maybe
You're
they made lots of money
right,
there.
right, right. And it's crazy. Like he doesn't, like they don't. This is what's crazy to me too. They don't use his money to make their lives
No.
better. Like that's like they don't. There are occasionally, I think there's one episode like when they're looking for their mom's jewels, or like when they try to live in a mansion, and like it's just they just like it doesn't work out for them, so they're just like, whatever, we don't really care. Like they occasionally are like, we should get more customers in the bar, and then that never works out, and they're somehow still surviving and not rickety crickets. Like they still wear clothes, and they still
It's only
eat
because of
normal
Frank.
food. Yeah, it's literally, yeah, Frank is like keeping them alive, but it's not like they're not doing anything more than that. It's so weird. And I'm actually just remembering there's so many episodes, and they're like all over the place. I'm remembering the times when the gang gets like altruistic, when they like, there's that episode where they go into that family's home, like Ty Pennington, you know, move that bus.
Oh, yeah. I love that
They, like,
episode.
kidnap this family that cannot speak English so that they can destroy their home and like give it an extreme home makeover. But they destroy it. But like Frank literally has they're like, Frank, we want to do this. And he's like, all right. Like, yeah, he's like, sure, let's do it. Let's do it.
I think he'll give them money for anything that he thinks is going to be funny. Like
Right.
he's not going to invest in their futures and education, something to better their life. He's only going to invest in something that's going to be hilarious to him.
I don't even like in Charlie work when they describe the plan, it doesn't make any sense because they purchased the airline miles with cash. Why are you doing all this to get cash? I don't understand. But they're like, yeah, it makes perfect sense. We're doing it. And Frank was just like, yeah, here's my credit card, buy some airline miles. Like, let's see what happens here.
Yeah.
I-
So
It's-
Rachel,
Rachel refuses to sort him too. She's had
Oh,
3
he's-
characters that
he's
she's told me she
ridiculous.
won't sort, and he's one of them.
Really?
He's just too, it's
Yeah.
there's
She won't
so
sort him.
much.
She won't
I won't
sort
sort
Ben
Chang
Chang
from
from Community, and she won't sort the Grandmaster from Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah,
He's
so
an anomaly.
naturally we'll have an episode with all 3. Frank to me is a perfect addition to the mix. I was worried. I mean, when I first started watching it, I was like, they're just gonna like add another character in here. I already liked these 4, and I think it was incredible how well he fit, and it didn't take anything away from the original dynamic of the show. In fact, it added to it. And I mean, that's all because of Danny DeVito. Like I used to think Danny DeVito and think of the father in Matilda, and now
Oh, that's right.
it's Frank. And I just think if you hear Danny talk about the role, he's in love with it. He's like, I'm never leaving. I would never leave the show. This is a dream come true. He gets to be the most ridiculous frog-brained
It's gotta be
character.
fun.
Oh, it's got to be
Mhm.
so fun.
Donkey brained, technically.
Donkey brain. Yeah. What's the frog? Oh, he was a frog kid.
No, he has a certificate saying
He
he's
has
not
a-
donkey brained.
That's right. He
He
is
has a
not.
friend who was a frog kid and the girl with no lips.
Yes.
He's like it's too much of an anomaly. It's too like I'll sit here and dissect the other 4. I don't want to dissect Frank. And I think it's great that he's like that, because you get to see a little bit of why Dee and Dennis are so fucked up, because they
yeah.
are. Giving them presents as children and then like taking them all away. These are for me, children. I don't know. Like, he messed them up so bad. So it's just really funny seeing him fund the group now. And I like the progression of Frank's character. He started out a little serious, a little bit serious. Like, you took him a little seriously in the early seasons, and now he's just batshit, like just as bad as the rest of them, but with money. So that makes it funny. I like Frank.
The one
Yeah.
other thing I love about Danny DeVito being added to the cast, he's so hilarious without them ever having to make it jokes using his height. as-
Exactly.
as a
true.
punchline.
Yeah.
I love
Very
that.
true.
You're right.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah, yeah. And
Except
I
the
mean,
long legs. One time when they gave him those
Yeah, but
long
you're right.
legs,
They don't. It's not like.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, they're too
they
busy
never
calling
make
Dee a
fun of
bird.
him. Mm-mm.
Yeah.
yeah. No, that's a good point. Yeah, and Danny DeVito is go watch Twins. Danny
Twins
DeVito
is great, Lauren.
amazing.
I believe you. I just have never like had opportunity.
I'm a little
Like,
bit
I know
older.
it
I've
exists.
watched a gazillion things with Danny DeVito, and I've loved them all.
He's
yeah,
phenomenal.
I mean, One Flew Over the
Romancing the
Cuckoo's
Stone.
Nest.
Oh
Yeah.
gosh, yeah.
Yeah, he's incredible,
Even
and he's
Taxi.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely
Yeah.
Taxi. Yeah, and he's just so good at everything he does, and he's not afraid to go there. He's not afraid to really,
Yeah.
really push it. And I remember when they first got him on here, I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they got Danny DeVito on here.
Yeah.
But he's having so much fun, and he's so good, and he fits in so well with everybody, and he's having this total regression. It's like this midlife crisis, like topped on top of each other, and it's like he doesn't have to live in squalor, but he wants to. It's the
That's what he
weirdest thing.
likes.
And when he goes with Dennis to the orgy, the sex party.
I
And he's so
can't.
happy to be there, and it's so gross.
can't.
And Dennis is like, "This is awful. I don't want to be here."
It's
And he's
I do-
loving it. Frank loves it.
I do have to I also really like how they do like subtly make sure that you know that Frank is slightly worse generationally.
Yes.
Like in Charlie work, Charlie's like, Frank, you have to take down the Talk American sign, and Frank's like, maybe the health inspector's racist too, and Charlie's like, this bitch is not racist. Like, take down the sign. Or when he goes on the news because he got robbed and he takes out the guns, it's like, anyway, so I started blasting. Like, they make it clear that because something else that I find really interesting about this show is that they give it the divide of like Dennis and Dee are liberals and Mac is a conservative and Charlie's like a libertarian maybe or something. I don't even know, but like he's just something. But they give it that like they all like don't care. Like they're still hanging out together because they're equally awful people, but they're awful in those specific like political ways as well. And they do
Yes.
it with Frank where they're like, this is an older generation person, awful person.
Boomer.
Like,
Eh,
these
awful
are
boomer.
this is a boomer. Yeah.
That's very true, especially with the liberal thing, because everybody's like, well, liberals are all great, but Dennis and Dee are prime examples of like
Yeah.
how how awful liberals can
when they get
be and how
addicted to crack
condescending.
and they go to
Oh
the
my gosh,
unemployment
yeah.
office.
I love
and
that
they're
episode so much. I love that episode so much.
And
So
they put
good.
the bike helmet
That's
on
the
Dee's head.
best.
So, like,
No, they literally have no political affiliation. None of them. They vote for Kanye West. They do not care. It's really
The
really obvious
Kanye
in the
West.
conversation Dennis and Dee have when they like shut down the mental institution and they're talking about taxes. And Dee's like, well, you have to pay more taxes to keep it open so that the people can get treatment. He's like, what? What? You're gonna raise my taxes for that? And she's like, well, it could be that, or we could take away the baseball stadium. And he's like, what? No, I'll pay more taxes to keep that open. Like it's just back and forth and they don't care about anything except themselves. It's just
Yeah,
very
yeah.
honest that way.
but they
and there are
they
a
do
lot
put
of
on the
liberals that
facade
are
of like they
No,
do put on the
do.
facade
It's
of like
hilarious because
because
the truth
it-
of the matter is they don't give a shit. It's great.
yeah,
They just
because
don't care.
in Reynolds versus Reynolds, when Mac is trying to convince them that evolution is not real, they're like-
Yeah.
he like calls them liberals. He's like, "You liberals like to think," and like
They're on the
Yes.
beach in the toxic waste with the rum ham, and Frank is talking to, and he's just like, "Should we be eating this as toxic? Bunch of liberal bullshit." Frank, don't listen to that. So funny.
even early on with the abortion episode
Yeah.
and all of that. I mean, it's just so obvious they are. I mean, but I love that when when they when they go on welfare and when they're like they're singing. What's the song they're singing now? I can't remember, but it's one of my favorite
And you
scenes. It's
say
so-
she's just a friend.
Yes, yes. Thank you. I love that.
Oh,
It's so
baby.
hilarious because they
Yeah.
are very much of the I'm Gen X and they're very much of the Gen X
Oh yeah.
mindset in a lot of ways,
Yeah.
but like turned up to 11. We're the forgotten generation.
Yeah.
So it's like it's reflected in these awful characters. But yeah, but Frank is a perfect addition and I couldn't imagine the show now without him. And it's weird when you watch the episodes before he comes on because you kind
Yeah.
of keep feeling where is he? But I mean, when you're rewatching him, so
Yeah.
yeah, and yeah, Danny DeVito can do no wrong performance wise. He's an incredibly, and he's a cool person too.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah. Okay, well, I wanted to single out the episode Mac finds his pride, and also just how the show handled Max coming out of the closet and dealing with his sexuality. And of course, in that episode ends with a dance that is set in the prison because he is trying to come out to his father. And also, I think it has one of the best lines I'll get to, or someone else might mention it from Frank as well towards the end of that episode. So, Judy, how do you think the show handled that? And what are your thoughts on that episode in particular, too?
I loved it. And not just that episode, but just the whole arc of Mac coming out and how long it took and how he came out and he went back in. He came out and he went back in. He came out and he went back in. It's a hard thing, and how he's dealing with this internal homophobia, lots and lots of internal homophobia. A father who is obviously not going to accept it, a mother who's just a total piece of crap. And a religion on top of it that
Mhm.
he wants to be Catholic, but he doesn't, it's just so many things working against him being who his authentic self is. So yeah, I mean, pretty deep for It's Always Sunny, but I think it's really great the way they handled it. And then it wasn't just a one-time easy. You think it's going to be when when they go to hell, and he's like, "All right, I'm gay," but then he goes right back in, and then he comes out again in, different episodes. But it's just an interesting struggle, and because it's kind of that's how a lot of people are, right? Like you have to put your toe out, and then maybe not, or you try and not so much. There's people struggle a lot with that. So I really like the way they did it. I think they also did a good job of having it be a funny recurring joke, but not because everybody was against him being gay, but we knew it for a long time. The gang knew it for a long time. It was just his own internal struggle that was, funny because it was so like ironic and satirical. But yeah, and I also think it's interesting that they did not plan. I mean, it was years down the line before they decided that Mac was going to actually be gay. But you watch season 1 and like the first 1 or 2 episodes, I think Carmen, isn't she in the very first episode? Right? Or is it
She's
first
in the
or
first
second?
Pretty,
season.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
pretty
Early.
on. Yeah.
Very early. Yeah, it's funny that like they decided at, I don't know, season 5 or something that Mac was actually going to be gay, but that, looking back, they're like, wow, he's been gay all along. We just didn't even know it. We wrote it and we didn't know it. So I thought that was really interesting. I don't know, as far as the coming out to his father in a dance, I thought it was really beautiful. And it showed this really unique vulnerability and so many people can probably relate to that kind of struggle where you're struggling between your sexuality and your religion and just needing that acceptance from your core family and being terrified that you're not going to get it. And I think that dance expressed all of that really beautifully. And I like how they were like, you either get it or you don't. And Frank got it, which
Yeah,
was
I get it.
Mhm.
I know, which is really nice because
Best line.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it was great that he got it. I thought it was interesting that that episode was a little bit controversial when it came out because there's a whole lot of fans that didn't get it.
Yeah.
And I think the fans who didn't get it are the same ones who complained when the show got political or dealt with, social issues. And it's funny because the show's been political and the show's been satirizing social issues from the pilot.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if you don't get that as a fan, if you don't get that it's a mirror, the show is supposed to be a mirror. It's holding up a mirror to all of us, showing us the ugly side, obviously to the 10th degree, but it's showing us the ugly side of us, the ugly side of our country, the ugly side of politics and social issues and poverty and you name it. But like the same people who sat in that audience and didn't get it, I think are the same ones that don't get that that's what Always Sunny is about, and it always has been. And the writers will tell you that that's what it's about. And it's weird how there's a pretty big, I think, portion of the It's Always Sunny fans that don't get it.
Oh yeah.
If a man tells you that their favorite show is It's Always Sunny, be careful.
No, I think I think a lot of that to me shows that if you are one of those, frankly, I think you might be more thinking that these people are heroes and you're supposed to be like them.
Yeah.
And I think that's what some people don't get. I mean, it was the same thing that happened with Married with Children too. It's the same kind of thing where you don't get they aren't saying you should be like this. They are, like you said, holding up that mirror. And yeah, the show has been political since the since the
Yeah.
get-go. And if you can't see that, that's really weird to me. But people don't want to see that. I think that's a lot of what it is too. And especially because I remember that when on social media and people just were outraged by this and furious and couldn't
Yeah.
believe they did this. And they're so woke now or what.
They've always been pretty woke.
Yeah, it's just yeah.
Yeah.
So Lauren, what are your thoughts on how they handled this?
I think especially lately, there's a lot of people have been talking a lot more about queer representation in media, especially with stuff like Our Flag Means Death and Heartstopper coming out and thinking about how queer people should be shown in media and what it means to queer bait and when exactly that happens and what it feels like or what it looks like, and how it's hard to define. I would say that I think Always Sunny did fall victim to that early 2000s. Haha, it's funny when you think a straight person's gay. But I appreciate that I think they I appreciate that I think they turned it into something pretty gracefully and fairly well when they decided that Mac was going to be gay. I think I mean, I agree that you can come in and out of the closet as a queer person, like trying to figure out your identity. I also think they made it pretty clear that Mac was doing that because he is an awful person. Like when being queer was good for him, he was totally fine with it. Like he wanted to go to gay bars and have sex with men or people who had penises, and he was totally fine with like everybody knowing that. But then he was like, but I'm not gay. Like I'm not going to say that I'm gay. Or like when he comes out in Hero and Hate Crime, he does it for the lotto ticket that may or may not have money like on it. Like he's like, oh, you mean I'll get all of the money if I say that I'm gay? And she's like, yeah, because then it would be a hate crime. He's like, okay, I'm gay. And then he doesn't end up going back into that closet in that episode because he's like, no, this feels pretty good. Like I like feeling like this. But then on the cruise ship, when they think they're all going to die, and he's like, God is punishing me for being gay. He's like, he's not gay again. So I also appreciated that they stayed in line with the character and the show in that like Mac isn't a better person because he is queer or he's repressed or because he's part of this, minority group. He's a bad gay person. Like he's a bad person still. Like he is using this label when it suits him. So then it also meant a lot when he like actually decides to come out, not just because he's been using that label when it suits him, and it's because they also have been doing this thing with how religious Mac is, and that's often really played for laughs too. Like it's funny that he's like a crazy Catholic, like he's like, like God will smite me down and God does everything and God hates women and like all of that stuff, and he just very casually believes all of this and like subscribes to it and doesn't get that there could be a religion that he belongs to where gay people are accepted and that it's totally fine and that they can go on cruise ships and play shuffleboard together and God will not smite them down. Like it's totally fine, Mac. But so I do think that Mac finds his pride was really beautiful in the sense that like Mac actually does have some issues with identifying as gay. And as I said earlier, Mac's identity is so important to him. Like understanding who he is really important to him. And I think that episode opens with like, Frank coming along and asking Mac to be on the float because he's their token gay person. So like he has to be on the float. And Mac is sitting there on the couch like, I just don't really understand who I am as a gay man. Like that's his thing. Like he's like, I've accepted it now, but I don't really know where I fit here. Like I don't understand who I am as a gay person because I've been, just taking on that label when it suited me for so long. And now I'm just going to be it. And I don't really know how to do that. So I think that episode was really beautiful in like relaying that because even like people experience that when they're not awful people. Mac just happens to be. But yeah, I thought it was really beautiful. I thought the way that they did it was really beautiful. I thought it was I thought the religious element to it was really beautiful and how it was almost like a painting, like a religious painting. I thought that was great. I thought when he like blurts out to his dad what's happening, he's like, it's like an angel came down to me. And then like, and his dad interprets it as him being pregnant. But I knew I could understand Mac. I was like, I get like it's nonsense, but I get where you're coming from. And then you actually see it play out in the dance and like, and you get it. And you're like, that's really truly beautiful. And then the next episode he's back to being like a piece of shit and you're like, like you're a piece of shit, but glad you've found yourself now and you're confident in yourself and being who you are. And I also enjoy, I don't know, I enjoy the flip that they had that now it's like Mac's like, oh, I'm looking for a dude to bang, and it's not. I don't know how they've done this well because I can't really pinpoint exactly what's different. It must be everything. Everything's feeding into it, like how they've built up to it and how they've treated it or whatever. But it's not coming off as like the laugh now, like, oh, all gay men are horny or all like, you're just like, this is Mac a shit person, and he's like, now I gotta go find some guys to bang or whatever, and you're like, okay, like that's him flipping the switch, and now here's Mac, who is no longer into woman. But I think they did. I do think that they did a good job with this representation, and it's not like Our Flag Means Death level, but it's a show that started in the early 2000s that like took to heart what they were doing, and also maybe a little bit of what the audience was seeing, because that's what they were giving. Like that is what we were being presented with, and they were like, you know what, you're right. So here we are. He is gay. Yeah.
Rachel.
Yeah, I think all the smart things have been said already. So I agree with both of you. And my thing is, what I thought was so interesting watching that episode, what a lot of us had in common when we were watching was we were waiting for the punchline, and it didn't come. And that was my favorite part of it, was that it just was not turned into a joke. And I think the writers felt like we did after a while. It's like, haha, he's a closeted gay man. Okay, how long can you really keep it going? In, out, in, out. And I just thought it was great that they took it as an opportunity. It's the one of maybe like 2 or 3 really serious moments in the show. And they put a lot of thought into when they want to do that, into when they really want to make it serious. They had another one recently with Charlie and his father, where he's just like sobbing on the mountain. And it's a truly serious, pivotal moment for the character. This was Max. And they don't treat those moments like a punchline. There was no joke after. And I really respect them for it. And it's just, it's great now, because you can go back and watch certain episodes where like, it doesn't, the whole thing, you know where it's leading to. You know, it's leading to a place where it's taken seriously, and he's given his moment, and he finally feels like he's accepted himself. So you can laugh at certain things before that maybe started to feel like, oh, this is like it's not as funny anymore. Because like, you know what, it's leading to a really good place. They actually take it somewhere good. So I give them credit for that, and I give Rob endless amounts of credit for how he's always played Mac, and the dedication he's put into Mac, and just that learning the dance. Like,
Yeah.
incredible. So I loved it.
The
Something I have to give
athleticism.
them, something I have to give them credit for too that none of us addressed is I'm trying really hard to think of something, but I think they've handled Mac's crush on Dennis really well, and how because Dennis knows, right? Like the blow up doll, and he uses
Dennis is
it
crazy
obviously.
codependent on him
Yeah,
too.
yeah,
They're
no, I know,
stick
but
together.
but Dennis knows he's in love with him, and Dennis uses it. He's like, I'm feeding you big pills, like you need to be attractive again, and Mac's like eating them up, and so he uses it. But I've appreciated how they've treated it. It hasn't felt like gross or like, and I mean, I feel like they get it might be easier for them as well, because these people are supposed to be awful. So you're just like, of course Dennis is going to treat it like that, because he's a really bad person.
Mac was a like a cis woman, Dennis would be treating her the exact same way. That like just using it, like,
but he'd be having sex with her as well, which Mac really wants, and Dennis won't do.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the way Dennis treats the waitress, that's the example of, except adding the sex in there, but
yeah.
Well, Rob was raised by 2 women. So he has lesbian mothers, and he has 2 gay brothers. So I think he probably really wanted to do this right.
Yeah.
I think he did. But I think it's interesting, Lauren, what you mentioned about how the difference between the episode where Frank's going around and trying to help Mac find his place in the gay community, and I think that's actually not an uncommon thing. So somebody may know that they're queer, but that doesn't necessarily mean they know their place in that community. So coming out is a very different thing than finding your place within the queer community.
Like it's so, the thing that they've done with Mac too, and it's like, it's so subtle, but like in that episode when he takes him to the dom sub club, and Mac's like, this isn't a gay thing, it's a like preference thing, it's a kink thing, and or in Hero versus Hate Crime, when they're talking about whether the F word is a slur, because they're talking about like F word versus N word, and like there's history behind the N word, so like F word actually isn't that bad or whatever. And Mac comes out and explains to them the whole history about burning gays at the stake or whatever, and they're all just staring at him like, oh, I didn't know that. It's like Max got all this queer he has been searching into this. Like he's been looking at it.
Mhm. Yeah, well, I think that's part of with the struggle to I mean, even though he's still a horrible person, I think the struggle with coming to terms with that and with, the fact that he's Catholic and his religion and his faith and everything and having to deal with that. I'm sure the amount of research he's done for years and decades that people don't even know because he was trying to come to terms with that and trying to accept who he was. And I remember because I wasn't watching Sunny at this point. I had actually stopped watching and I remember hearing about this. So I went and just watched the dance. I didn't watch the whole episode. And I remember crying the first time I saw that because there's so much emotion and vulnerability there that you have never seen in this character or any character, period, on this show on display there. And the fact that there isn't a single joke after that. And when you're watching all the faces of the men watching this in the audience and watching the other men cry, and then most importantly, more than because he doesn't get that reaction from his father that he was seeking there, but the reaction from Frank I think is more important in a way because Frank has been there for so long and Frank keeps saying I don't get it, I'll never get it. And then for Frank to actually get it, to watch that and actually say and voice and be crying, and I believe those were actually real tears, that was actually from Danny DeVito's feeling on that. And to hear him say I finally get it, was so beautiful because it was like, that's what needed to happen. And the fact that everybody cheered and was clapping. And it was like this moment of pure acceptance where I think because of that, I think that can help him really learn more about his sexuality and where he fits in the queer community and what his place is, because not every gay person is the same. That's the thing. And I know we talk about, we already recorded this, but on our happy endings episode, we talk about that and how the character of Max is so different from gay men that you would have seen on television up to that point, where usually they want gay men to be very flamboyant. And there are very, gay men that are like that, but there are also gay men that are assholes. There are gay men that are very, like into sports, and so everybody finds their place in a different way. Then there are gay men that are into BDSM, just like there are lots of people that are into that. So it's just finding your place within the community and within yourself too, and who you are. And so I think that that dance is also about that, and it's so beautiful. It's just so incredibly beautiful. It's like one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen as far as in this area, and it was kind of shocking just because I didn't think the show would ever go to such a deep and meaningful place, but it fit the show. It didn't feel out of place. It didn't seem weird or odd. And yeah, the athleticism in there and doing it with the water pouring on them with the rain made it even more, it was almost baptismal, and that was beautiful too.
I love
And
that the prison just had that ready to go.
I know. Of course, all prisons do. And then the female dancer, the woman dancing with him, was beautiful and amazing and gave him so much and was so giving and open to him, and it was just absolutely gorgeous. And I think even if you don't watch this show, you can just watch that scene
Yeah.
and get what's going on and the emotions there, and the performances are amazing. And Rob says so much in that performance without saying a word and in that moment, and it's really beautiful, yeah. And on a shallow note, he looks amazing in that.
What?
Yes.
Oh my
Yep.
god. But
Truly.
yeah, it's beautiful. I really appreciate that they did that. And it's sad but not surprising to see the reaction by some fans
People are
around that time.
stupid. They
Yes,
don't get
they
the show.
are.
Like, why are you watching the show? It's like people who complain about South Park. South Park is a satirical mirror for the idiocy that exists in humanity. Like, it's not everyone's cup of tea. Like, Sunny's not everyone's cup of tea. If you can't laugh at yourself, then already you're probably an asshole. And if you like, come on, you really, truly, like to get upset about such a beautiful scene, there's something just wrong with you. That's all. You're dumb.
No, I agree. I completely agree. Yeah. So speaking about the general content of the show, do you think there are times when this show has gone too far, Judy?
Um, It's yeah. This one's really tough because it's an old show, right? I mean, it started what 2000 or something. Like it started a long time ago, and um, things that are socially acceptable or things that were socially acceptable, even though they may have been, on the edge, are certainly not now. So, even the writers say they look back and they're like, we wouldn't write that today. We wouldn't air that today. And probably some of the things that they are airing today, if the show lasts another 10 years, they're going to look back at the things they're doing today and say, oh, I wouldn't have done that now. So, yes and no. I mean, by today's standards, yeah. I mean, maybe blackface. It was, not great.
That would be my answer, Judy. That's
Yeah.
the one for me.
Anymore. But I never want them to stop pushing boundaries, right? I don't want that, them to think that, oh, we went too far, so we have to pull ourselves back and monitor ourselves too much, because I love that they walk that very fine tightrope, just on this side of too far. It makes the show better. It makes it's satire, right? And it's very cutting satire. And I think if they were too cautious and clean and, cookie cutter like all the other comedies on like the big four networks, it wouldn't have lasted. It wouldn't be what it is. It wouldn't be as effective for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Lauren?
Yeah, basically pretty much the same answer. I mean, it's so difficult. The show is supposed to make you uncomfortable because it's supposed to be turning a mirror on the worst parts of what you could be. So sometimes when I'm really uncomfortable, I'm like, am I uncomfortable because this is showing me something that is happening and that I could be privy to? Or am I uncomfortable because this is, like they went too far and it's racist and like you shouldn't be doing blackface? Because they did blackface in order to say blackface is horrible. Like that's what it was, that they were having Mac do it, but it still shouldn't have been done. And actually it's so interesting that in this last season they directly
They called it out.
Yeah, they do it in the show because they're making another Lethal Weapon, and it's like they do it beautifully, because what they do is they're like,
funny.
yeah, Mac, like you should never have done that. Like we really shouldn't have done that. And then what they do is they end up making everybody in their new movie black. So then it becomes like a white savior thing. Like they go in that direction.
What does Max say? Or was it Charlie where they're like, you have to actively try something? Like he makes a comment where he's just like, but I don't want to appear racist. Like I don't want to appear that way.
Yeah,
but
I just don't want to appear that way.
Like
and it's like, and I'm like, what is, like, I'm trying to figure out, like, because you're right. I'm also like, because like the race stuff is hard because they're all white people and I'm a white woman, and I'm like, when are you actually making good commentary and when have you gone too far? I'm unable to judge that because it's not my experience. And I can't fairly, like if somebody else who has this experience says that it's wrong, then obviously it is. I can't be the one to judge that. But it's also interesting to see where the line is. Like in that same episode, Frank's like, I want a hooker. I want my dick sucked on camera. And they're like, Frank, you can't do that. And they end up letting him do it. So I'm like, or like the stuff that they do with children, with Dennis, and sometimes with like the whole episode with Charlie and Mac when they go to the school because they want to protect the school from shooters or whatever. Like they can get like weird with children, and it's supposed to be like, you're supposed to be uncomfortable. These are bad people who do not understand boundaries and do not understand what they should and shouldn't be doing.
Beauties.
Right. Yeah. You're like, yeah. Or the way that they treat women like all the time. And you're like, they're supposed to be treating women that way because they're bad people. But you're also like, yeah, but like, how, like, at what point am I like, you don't do that? Like some of the way that Dennis talks to women, especially like that timeshare episode when the woman is running like the timeshare or whatever, and the way that he speaks to her is awful. Or like the way like to Dennis, women are just walking vaginas, right? Like he's gonna have
Mhm.
sex with them eventually, is what he thinks. So like he doesn't have to treat them nicely because he's gonna have sex with them because he's gorgeous, and then he's gonna make them feel bad about themselves, and he'll never have to see them again. And it's like, yes, that is like a mirror on society, but we're also getting to the point where it's getting really bad for women out there again. So like when are we, or again, it's always been bad for women. It's getting worse for women in America.
Time's up
But
for the gang.
right, yeah, like
I
yeah,
love
like
that
yes,
episode.
yeah, exactly. So it's like, I don't know. I think they're walking a really fine line, and obviously they're aware of that, and it's what the show is meant to do. And I appreciate that we have seen them in show. We're not going to do blackface again. We're not going to, treat transsexuals like we do again, or transgender. But they are like learning and evolving, but it's just like they're walking a fine line too, and like we as the audience are walking it with them. So we're like, it makes you feel uncomfortable, and then it's funny, and then you're like, I'm going to hell because I laughed at that. And it's like, that's what it's supposed to be.
Yeah. So Rachel.
Yeah, I tend to agree with everything. Like Judy, what you were saying, where I don't ever want them to stop walking it, because if they stop walking it, it's not the same show, and it won't last. You're absolutely right. Like so many other shows have come and gone and been canceled because they're being too nice, or they're like too scared to touch a certain subject. I like that they're not scared to go certain places, and I like even more that they address it in the show and then make it funny that like it ever happened in the first place, but then they say in the show like that was horrible, like we were fucking terrible people for that, and then they go and do something else that's terrible. Like it is the show. It's you have to have like a I don't know how to say, like you have to have a predisposition towards dark humor in yourself, or to even find it remotely funny. You have to be able to laugh at humor like that, or it's just never going to be funny. It just may not ever be your cup of tea, which is completely fine. There are people I've met that don't think the show is funny at all. They haven't laughed at a single episode, and I'm like, you know what? Totally respect that. There are things on the show that are too far for certain people. That's fine. For me, I like love how they've addressed it. I love how the writers have talked about it. I love how I feel like I can trust the actors to do the right thing, to act the right way, to address it correctly. So I'm okay with certain things that they've done. I'm not okay with certain things they've done, but I'm okay with where we've landed. That's how I feel about it now. Like I'm happy to see it has been addressed, and that I don't feel like it's going to ruin the show, or that they're going to take it in a completely opposite direction. Like they can go in there and do a fucking 5-minute beautiful gorgeous dance where Mac comes out and it fits. Or then they can make a horrible joke and then address it later and say it's horrible and it fits. Like they just are experimenting, and it's always worked for them, and they should have Emmys for it. But they don't, I don't think. But they should.
I think the
So
only episode that they ever got nominated for was The Gang Turns Black. And
I don't know if
'cause
they didn't win, right?
they did not win, but I remember talking to a friend of mine who's a member and gets to vote, and she's like, "Oh
Mm.
yeah, I voted for that one."
It's a great episode. They do great commentary, and I just love how they address things within the show, because they could very easily have never talked about it again. But they decided, let's do a whole Lethal Weapon episode where we say, you're a dick for that, you're a dick for that. Like they didn't let themselves off the hook for it, which is
Well, the
all you
whole
can do
gang
at this
turns
point. What are
black.
they? Yeah, but what else? And like, what are they supposed to do at this point? They made the
Yeah.
episode, they aired it, they did it. All of us at one point laughed at it, or we wouldn't still be sitting here like enjoying the show. We weren't sitting there like go signing petitions being like, get this fucking episode off the air. Like we weren't doing that because everyone
I
had
laughed.
to grow too. Like we had to grow as a society, as the writers did, as the actors did. Now you look back and go, I was a dick for that, and so were you. It's not okay. And that's it. As long as it's being addressed and it won't happen again, good. That's all you can do at this point, short of like canceling the whole thing.
Yeah, I think with doing blackface, that's never okay, and that should have been over with. Like, we should never be doing that again. And I think there are other things that you try to grow with. And I think, we've talked about this a lot through this whole month of talking about comedy, is sometimes comedies, especially comedies that are way out there, use that as an excuse to push any boundary they can and do anything they can, and it's an excuse that it's just a comedy or that these are just horrible people. And while I think with this one, it's a little bit easier to be okay with that because of the fact that none of these people win, and I think that's very important. If they were rewarded for their horrible behavior, I would not like this show, and I think that would be a totally different conversation, but they're never really like it's not good. It's very clear that their behavior is not good and this is not the way you should be. But yeah, doing the blackface is really too far, and that should not have happened, and I know they realize that now and they address that, but yeah, so that's a line they did cross. But I do think, it's weird because just like with Married with Children, like I said, and that for me is a lot nostalgia, but
Mm.
I can forgive a lot more in this one, whereas with Community, I couldn't forgive some stuff that I had issues with. Other shows we covered this month, there are things that I had issues with that are harder to forgive because not all those characters are getting rewarded with stuff and they were supposed to love them. So then it's harder. It's this weird line. And I think with this, you very much have to like this kind of humor. You very much have to like dark and twisted humor in order to like this show. And if you don't like that, you are going to hate this show. So I think that's very, very important. But I mean,
So does
I think
painting
overall-
Dumpster Baby brown count as blackface?
Oh yeah, they should have never done.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my god,
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
Painting Dumpster Baby.
Ugh. And even in that episode, they're talking about like how fucked up it is that they're doing it. It's like, oh my god, I think back all the time to things that I found funny or that like I laughed at as a teenager, as a young in my early 20s, and I look back at it now and I'm like, that's really not funny. But you know what? It's where you are in your life. It's where we are as a society. It's what we're willing to do, what we're willing to laugh at, or if we're willing to look at it and go, I'm going to learn from that and be better. And I think the show's done a good job of doing that. That's all I can ask of them. I can hold myself to a higher standard.
Mhm.
But I'm happy where they've landed.
Yeah. Well, now it's time for our newest segment. I don't know who is playing 6 Degrees of Finn Whitrock. So are any of my panelists playing alongside with me?
I was
I am-
trying to connect him to trying to do something with him being in La La Land. Because he was in La La Land apparently. And I know there has to be something, but I couldn't do it.
Anyone else?
I would be bad at this game. I feel like a terrible a podcast member for this
No,
because I really
do not
don't
feel
follow
terrible.
Finn at all.
I
That-
can
it
do it,
doesn't
but
matter.
it has to be 6, Erin.
No, it has to be 6 or less. That's how it goes. It's
I
either 6 degrees or less.
I think one of the McPoyles has been on Criminal Minds, which he's been on.
Yes. Yes.
So I think that's one.
Okay. Lauren, did you have any for this one?
I don't know this man, so I can't.
Sorry to this
I'm
man.
looking up his IMDb right now, but
Criminal Minds is a good bet because like everyone's been on.
Everybody's been on.
right.
Oh, you know.
Well, and that was a lot. It was around that time. Also, I've shared this before, but I'll share this with the three of you. Finn Whitrock was accepted to Juilliard twice. First time he was accepted, he actually turned it down because he got like the role in Criminal Minds or one of those, and he thought it was going to take him places, and it didn't. So he auditioned again and got in. So that tells you what kind of actor he is. But then he got in twice, and then he
And
did
they
go.
forgave him saying no.
Yeah, and he went that time.
Good
He
for you, Finn.
he gets a lot of crap about that because people are like, who would turn down Juilliard? But yeah,
That makes
so
him
for
more
the Finn
interesting.
Yes, yes. So I have quite a few. So if nobody else has one,
Go.
Wait. I'm trying really hard.
okay.
Hang on.
I mean, this show's had a ton of, guests as well.
Yes.
But
Yeah,
but it's a
but
lot
the main
of
people you can
like
connect to.
not big name,
Yeah.
actors.
It is hard
Like-
because you can't like I'll see Ben the Soldier in something and I'll be like Ben the Soldier, but I can't remember what the hell I saw him in now. But
Please
he's in
tell me he was
stuff.
wearing jean shorts.
Yeah. Oh, the jean shorts.
See, like jokes like that, the continuity for like
Uh,
how many
yeah.
seasons has he been wearing those jean shorts?
It's so good.
Mhm.
I love it.
Did you find one, Lauren?
No, I don't know. I was trying to connect him to Mindy Kaling through Amanda Seyfried, but I don't think they were in a movie together. So
Yes, they were. They were actually just in a movie together called
That's what I thought. Okay, I
Damn,
did it.
called A
Erin.
Mouthful of Air,
Yeah, I did
which
it.
is an absolutely amazing performance. I mean, movie. And Amanda Seyfried is so incredible in that movie, and it's one of the best depictions of depression and suicidal ideation I have ever seen.
Wow.
Huge trigger warnings for that movie. Very triggering. They actually have a trigger warning before the movie starts, which is the first time I've ever seen that, which I really applaud for. So that's a fantastic film. You can rent that now. So,
So better than the one she's in with Kevin Bacon.
oh my gosh, 100 bazillion times better.
What the hell was
Being
that?
6 Degrees. Yeah, it's really, and she is so amazingly good in it.
She's fantastic.
But really trigger for, if you've ever dealt with that, it'll be incredibly triggering for you. But it's very good. So there, you connected.
I did it.
There you go. Well, I'm going to do this one because this one's fun. So Rob had a small role on All My Children.
Did he really?
Yes.
That's
And-
amazing.
And Finn Whitrock was on All My Children as a pretty main character called Damon Miller. So I wanted to connect that one because I was wondering if All My Children would ever come up. And then I'm going to give another one just so I can mention this incredible movie again. But Glenn was in the movie The Hunt with Ike Barinholtz, who is in the movie The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, which is an incredible, amazing, hilarious film with, of course, Nicolas Cage. And this is how we came up with creating this game. And that was co-written by Finn Whitrock's cousin. And because Finn Whitrock had put that in his story, and so I shared that. We have our own little DM with my Finn crew, and I shared that, and Susie said we should start doing 6 Degrees of Finn Whitrock. So this is how this
That's
came.
amazing. Did you just connect it back to you? Did you connect yourself in that? Can you count yourself, Erin? You could be
Yes,
like,
actually, I can.
I'm having a podcast where we're talking about it.
So, yeah,
Therefore, I'm
that's
part of
always
it.
0 degrees.
There you go.
Yes, I actually can connect myself through several different ways, but also Meg is just 2 degrees away from Finn Whitrock. So, because she was in Public Enemies with Christian effing Bale, our unofficial mascot, and Christian effing Bale was in The Big Short with Finn Whitrock. So,
Damn.
there you go. Yes. No, I'm a huge, if you're not a huge Finn Whitrock fan, it is a little bit harder to play the
Yeah,
game.
for sure.
I understand that. That's why I'm saying it's totally, it's not something people have to do. But once again, everybody, we do have the listener version of 6 Degrees of Finn Whitrock, and we're going to be doing that every month. So you go to our website, it's a fandomthingpod.com, click on the page titled 6 Degrees of Finn Whitrock, and go there, and we'll have 4 shows or movies that we have covered in the past this month. And you only have a couple more days to submit. May 31st is the deadline, but we're doing this every month. Like I said, we are doing Schitt's Creek, Chuck, Dexter, and this happens to me every single time. I forget the flippin' 4th one.
You know
but I
what,
have the
Erin?
page
There's a
pulled up.
fantastic Destiel AU that is Chuck. It's really good.
Oh,
Just wanna
really?
throw that out there. Yeah.
True
It's really
Blood.
good.
True Blood. So True
True
Blood is the
Blood!
4th one. Yes. So go
okay.
there, and
It's
hey,
okay.
if you all want to go there and try and figure it out, go there, submit your guesses on how Finn is connected to all of those. You can do this too, Finn, if you would like to play and try and win some It's a Findom Thing merch. Go ahead. Don't be ashamed to submit yourself to. You could get all of these. But yes, so thank you all so much for talking about this show with me. I really had fun and appreciated you all being on. So I'm going to go around and have everybody say where they can be found. And then, of course, when Lauren and Rachel close out, talk a little bit more about their podcast and where they can be found. So Judy?
Yep, my Tumblr is Angels Watching Over, all one word, and that's mostly supernatural. And Instagram is just pictures of me. That's Ballroom Blitzgeek.
Awesome. Thank you. And Lauren and Rachel, you can
Uh,
both close out together if you want to.
Should I not be my own person? Should we
Yes,
just be
you
the
should be your
podcast?
own person, but the podcast too. They were you as a person and then you as a podcast.
All right. You can find me at Joe Lori Ange on Twitter or Thursday's Fallen Angel on AO3 or Tumblr. If Elon Musk ever buys Twitter and we have to leave. He's not going to. He's poor. And then Rachel and I can be found at Sort of Brilliant Podcast, which is on Apple and Spotify. And we're at SOB_pod on Twitter and Instagram. So you can find us over there. We just did Doctor Strange. We're literally about to do Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. It was Marvel May, I guess. And then in June, you can look forward to Gossip Girl. That's what's happening. And Mythic Quest, I think, is also what we're doing. So
Rob show.
yeah. With a Rob show, although we won't be sorting Rob because we already sorted him. So we'll be doing Dave's character, Rickety Cricket.
Yeah.
So yep.
She said it all. You can find me also at those Sort of Brilliant places. And then I'm just like Griffin Dean on Twitter because Dean Winchester's a Gryffindor. And I think we should start doing 6 degrees of Supernatural.
That would be like 1 degree.
It'll be 1 degree every time.
Yeah, every time.
There you go. See, now every guest podcast is going to start doing, because
Yeah,
Jen,
you're
my
a trailblazer.
podcast brain twin, well, she actually started doing it with, she does it on my streaming bubble. She does 6 degrees of Nicolas Cage. So yeah,
Okay.
so it's going to be a thing. And pretty soon Carla is going to be doing an intro song for 6 degrees of Finn Whitrock.
Beautiful.
So because we've
Beautiful.
got to have an intro for the
so
segment.
amazing.
That's funny.
So, yes. And remember, we do have the dance craze that Jen, myself, and Carla came up with during Married with Children, do the Finn Whitrock. So go and find that on TikTok and do your own Finn Whitrock.
Love and marriage, love and...
Well, we didn't even do it to that. We were just doing it like we were going to
Oh, you
have it.
could
part
do
of the
like
season.
Finn and Whitrock.
Yeah. So, well, this is Erin. You can follow me on Twitter at eAprilBeauty. The E and the A and the B are capitalized. Be sure to like the show on Facebook at facebook.com/itsafandom_thing_pod. On Twitter at fandomthingpod. No it's in that one. On Instagram at It's a Fandom Thing Pod. On TikTok at It's a Fandom Thing Pod. If you would like to be a potential interview guest on the show, I'm very, very proud of my interviews. I have had interview guests tell me that I am their favorite interview they have ever done. So go head on over to it'safandomthingpod.com, hit contact us, and sorry, everybody, my brain is slowly dying from all of the talking today. And that will reach out to us and we can talk about potentially being a guest. So any of the cast members of It's Always Sunny, I would love to have any of you on. It would be a blast. So yep, so reach out there. And then I also want to just say that coming in August, I will be on Sort of Brilliant to sort Finn Whitrock. 3 of his
Basically.
American Horror Story.
That's
Dandy
what we're
Mott
doing.
and Tristan and Harry. So
I wonder where they'll go, Erin.
I don't know.
And
No,
Erin,
Tristan's
we
not
actually,
gonna
I think we have rearranged so we're giving you Halloween.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah,
Halloween-
which works better. Yes,
Even better.
for that for that sorting, we were like, this fits the theme better. Also, what did we have to do in August? Kenobi's coming out, and we have to
The
sort
boys.
those sad fucker. Oh yeah, well, no, you were doing that. Kenobi and Anakin are like depressing in there. And they
yeah,
need
but
to
I
be
took
sorted.
the boys for my birthday episode. I'm in August, baby, because we cannot watch Buffy the Vampire Slayer all the way through there. And she's never seen it.
I
It was
have
gonna be
tried
my birthday
twice to watch
episode,
Buffy,
but,
and I always
ugh.
get stuck on the same episode. It's the one where the hyenas talk, and
You're
the,
weak. You're weak.
the
Buffy
guy's
is
being an
amazing.
asshole. What's his name? Xander. The guy.
Oh, whatever. That's never going to stop. Just
When
get
Whedon
through it.
wrote himself into the show, I hate him. I
Xander's
hate
an
him.
asshole forever, but you can't let that deter you.
Yeah, but the show is like he's a nice guy. You're supposed to like him, and it makes me want to kill myself.
No, never once in all of my youth. You'll be okay. You'll get there.
I am the
But
same
anyway.
way, Lauren. I have tried twice to
Yeah.
get through Buffy. And I think
I
it
love
rounds
Buffy,
around-
Rachel. We've
Thank
covered
you,
it
Erin.
twice. We've covered it twice on my show. So
And it
I love it.
feels
It's one of my
like
favorite
something
shows.
that I would love. I don't
Yeah.
know why, but I just kind of drift off somewhere around season 4. I don't know.
Yeah,
Sad.
I don't know what
I'll
it
get
is.
back to it someday.
No, it's an amazing show. So anyway,
Well, I keep having to rewatch all of my favorites for Aaron's podcast. So
I know that's
I'm
all.
busy doing
Everything
that.
I watch is. for
That's
this,
what's happening
so-
with our podcast. What did I want to
Yeah.
rewatch the other day that I was like, I can't. I want to rewatch Merlin, and I'm like, I can't because I know we're gonna do it for the podcast, and I'm not gonna rewatch Merlin twice in like 3 years. So
Yes, that's what most of my viewing is for that. So, but on our next episode, and just a heads up for anyone who is watching this live, I'm switching around our schedule a little bit. So We actually have an author interview with someone who's written this amazing thriller. It's called Hooker Avenue. Please don't let the title throw you off. It's actually a really, really good thriller that you see some amazing, strong female characters. And it's also a nice little look at, respecting people in sex work. So, if your feminism doesn't include sex workers, then you're not a feminist. So that's a really, really interesting interview. I loved that conversation a lot. So that's actually going to be dropping this coming Wednesday. And then this episode, the podcast version, is going to be out on Fridays. This is just for the live streamers. And then on our next podcast episode, we are closing out our comedy month and kind of sort of transitioning into Pride with a look at happy endings. The only reason I say sort of transitioning into Pride is because of the character of Max on Happy Endings. But for Pride Month coming soon, we are going to be talking about Love Simon and Love Victor. It's going to be a lot on Love Simon, and we're hopefully going to fit in Love Victor in there as well. And then we're going to be spending 2 weeks with Queer as Folk, because those are always some of our most popular ones. Eshell and Ken, the hosts of Liberty Diner Dish, will be joining us for that, along with Aaron for some of them, Carla, and then Danelle. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take some of the characters and just dive deep into them. That's what we're going to do this time. And then we're going to be talking about the L Word, Generation Q. And then we are going to be talking about John Waters. We're going to be talking about Lady Gaga. So I am very, very excited. I'm always excited for our Pride Month. And I'm hoping, fingers crossed, we'll get Roman and Tyler on for our John Waters. I have to reach out to them and see if they're available. But Jen, my podcast brain twin, will definitely be on for that one. So until next time, remember, it's a fandom thing. Black Lives Matter and stop Asian hate. And thank you to anyone who watched live. I saw people coming in and out. Thank you to Aaron A. for watching with us. And thank you again to Judy, Lauren, and Rachel. Thank you so much. So
Thank you for having me.
of course, thank you. Good night, everybody.
Night.